Welcome to a new podcast where you learn English by listening to native speakers and also learn powerful life lessons from great books.
That's right. And today we're doing a deep dive into a really popular one.
Yeah, it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck by Mark Manson. Now, the title, it's a bit strong maybe.
Definitely catches your eye.
But don't let that put you off.
Mm-mm.
The ideas inside are actually super helpful, and we're going to try and break them down in simple English.
Yeah, it's all about looking at problems differently, deciding what's actually important to you, a whole different take on happiness, really.
Exactly. So we'll walk through some of the main ideas just to give everyone a good feel for the book.
And hey, if you find this useful, for your English or just for thinking about life.
Please do like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out.
Okay, so, The Subtle Art. Where do we even start? The title itself is a statement.
It is. And interestingly, the book kicks off by talking about someone who, maybe didn't seem successful at first glance. Charles Bukowski.
Bukowski, yeah. A writer, but not the kind you usually picture. The book paints him as, kind of a loser for a long time, struggling with booze, gambling, bad relationships.
Right, by most conventional standards, yeah.
Yeah.
He worked a pretty mundane job for decades, didn't he? Post office.
Yeah, for like 30 years. And then when he's 50, he finally gets this chance to actually be a full-time writer.
50, wow. That's persistence or something?
Well, his choice was basically stay at the post office and go nuts, or try writing and probably starve.
Sounds like a tough choice. He chose starving, right?
He did. And apparently he cranked out his first novel in 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yep. Dedicated it to nobody. And kind of against the odds, he became this huge success. Millions of books sold.
Okay, but here's the twist, the really interesting part. His tombstone. It says, "Don't try."
Yeah, which is just weird, right? We always hear, never give up, keep trying.
So what gives? What does "don't try" actually mean here?
Well, the book argues it wasn't that he stopped doing things. His success came because he was brutally honest about his own failures. He accepted himself, warts and all. He didn't try to be someone else, someone better by society's standards.
Okay, so it's not about laziness. It's about authenticity, not faking it, being okay with not being perfect.
Exactly. He wasn't trying to fit into some mold, and that kind of challenges this constant pressure we feel, always needing more, better job, nicer car, perfect Instagram life.
Oh yeah, the pressure to care about everything, the latest phone, the amazing vacation photos.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Totally. And that leads right into another big idea in the book, the feedback loop from hell.
Sounds ominous. What is that?
It's when you start feeling bad about feeling bad. Like you get anxious about something and then you get anxious because you're feeling anxious.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Or
getting angry that you got angry.
Right. Or guilty about feeling guilty. Just spirals. You layer negative feelings on top of negative feelings.
And social media definitely pours fuel on that fire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seeing everyone else's supposed amazing life.
Absolutely. Everyone's curated highlights make you feel like you're the only one struggling. So the book's solution...
Let me guess. Don't give a feck.
You got it.
Nah.
Specifically, don't give a feck about feeling bad, except that negative feelings happen. It breaks the loop.
Okay, but not giving a feck needs clarification, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean being totally indifferent to everything, like becoming a sociopath.
No, definitely not. That's the subtle part of the art. It's not about not caring at all. It's about choosing what you care about. Being selective.
Oh, okay. Like, we have a limited budget of fricks to give, so spend them wisely on things that actually matter to you.
Based on your values.
Precisely. Don't waste your energy on trivial stuff, on things that don't align with what you find important.
The book had that story, didn't it? About the old lady freaking out over a tiny coupon.
Yeah, and the point was, maybe she cared so much about that tiny thing because she felt she had nothing bigger or more meaningful to care about in her life. It became her focus. That's kind of sad, but it makes sense. If you don't choose your battles, the small stuff can consume you.
And the book suggests that as we get older, we often naturally get better at this. We become more selective. We realize a lot of the stuff we worried about before just wasn't worth the energy.
That's maturity, maybe. Learning what's actually fuck-worthy, as the book puts it.
Exactly. It's about knowing your values and directing your care intentionally.
Okay, so we're choosing what to care about. Now, what about happiness? The book has a different take here too, right? Something about problems.
Yeah, it argues that happiness doesn't come from avoiding problems. It actually comes from solving them.
So life isn't about getting rid of all problems.
Well, Life is problems. Everyone has them. The secret, according to the book, is to have good problems.
Good problems. What makes a problem good?
Problems that you actually, choose to engage with. Challenges that align with your values. Things you want to struggle with because the outcome or the process itself is meaningful to you.
Like the struggle of learning a new skill or raising kids or building something you care about.
Exactly. Those are hard. There's problems, but they're meaningful struggles. Unhappiness comes from avoiding problems or feeling like you can't solve the ones you have.
So even negative emotions are useful signals, like telling you there's a problem you need to address.
Right. They're calls to action. That's where the disappointment panda comes in.
Disappointment panda, love that.
Yeah, this imaginary superhero who tells you the harsh truths you need to hear but are probably avoiding.
Okay, so embrace the struggle, choose good problems. That links to the next idea, doesn't it? Choosing your struggles.
It does. We often focus on the shiny outcome we want, like being famous or rich, but we don't think about the struggle involved in getting there.
Like the author wanting to be a rock star.
Yeah. He loved the idea of being on stage, but he realized he didn't actually enjoy the endless practice, the booking gigs, the rejection, the actual work of being a musician.
That's so true for so many things. We want the result, not the process.
And the book says, basically, who you are is defined by the struggles you're willing to endure. What are you willing to work hard for, even when it sucks?
That's powerful. It's not just about what you enjoy, but what pain you're willing to sustain.
Right. And it contrasts this with people who feel entitled, like the Jimmy character, someone with high self-esteem but avoids effort.
Ah, yes. Thinks they deserve success without the struggle.
But real self-worth, the book argues, comes partly from how you deal with negative experiences, being honest about your flaws, not pretending everything's great.
Which ties into taking responsibility, even for things that aren't technically your fault.
Exactly. This is a big one. It's easy to blame others or circumstances, but the book stresses taking responsibility for your experience of the problem, for your response.
Like the author's story about his girlfriend cheating. It wasn't his fault she cheated.
But his reaction, his feelings, his future happiness that became his responsibility. He couldn't control her actions, but he could control his response and how he moved forward.
It's empowering in a way.
Yeah.
Shifting from victim to agent.
It is. It allows for growth. Like the example of people with OCD learning to manage it by changing their values around their compulsions, taking responsibility for how they live with the problem.
Okay, moving on. The danger of certainty. How does that fit in?
Well, if you're absolutely sure you're right about everything, you close yourself off to learning, to growing, you stop questioning your assumptions.
You get stuck.
Totally. The book mentions an experiment, right, with a light flashing randomly.
Oh yeah, where people convinced themselves they'd figured out a pattern to control it, even though there wasn't one.
Exactly. It shows how easily we create beliefs based on, well, nothing. And how our memories aren't perfect recordings either. They get filtered through our beliefs.
Like the Meredith story in False Memories. Believing something strongly enough can actually create a memory of it.
So the point is, we should hold our beliefs a bit more lightly. Be open to the possibility that we might be wrong. It's okay to doubt ourselves sometimes. Have some humility.
Which probably makes it easier to deal with problems and responsibilities too. Now, what about boundaries and saying no?
Super important. Saying no to commitments, to requests, even to certain relationships is crucial for protecting your values and your energy. Giving a feck about the right things means saying no to the wrong things.
And healthy relationships need clear boundaries,
right?
Where each person takes responsibility for their own stuff.
Yes. Unhealthy ones often involve either taking too much responsibility for someone else's problems or expecting them to take responsibility for yours. Blurred lines.
The book even uses Romeo and Juliet as an example of, well, unhealthy obsession, not healthy love.
Kinda, yeah. High drama, zero boundaries, terrible decision-making, not exactly a model relationship despite the romance.
Okay, so boundaries are good. Then there's this idea that seems counterintuitive. Freedom through commitment. How does that work? Isn't freedom about having lots of choices?
We think it is, but the book talks about the paradox of choice. Having too many options can actually make us less happy, more anxious, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Like trying to pick a movie on Netflix and getting overwhelmed.
Exactly like that. The idea is that committing, really investing in one person, one career, one place, can actually be more freeing.
How so?
Because it reduces the constant anxiety of what if. You stop chasing the next best thing and actually go deep with what you've chosen. You build something meaningful.
You trade breadth for depth.
Precisely. The author found more fulfillment committing to writing and his relationship than constantly exploring endless, shallower options.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, the big one, and then you die. Sounds cheerful.
Haha, yeah, it's a stark reminder. But a necessary one, the book argues, facing our own mortality.
The author's story about his friend Josh dying.
Right, how that experience made him realize deep down there was nothing to be afraid of. Confronting death can clarify what's truly important.
It puts all the small stuff, the petty anxieties we give so many fricks about, into perspective, doesn't it?
Totally. Suddenly, that argument or that deadline seems less earth-shattering. The book suggests a lot of what we do, our immortality projects, are ways of avoiding the reality of death.
Trying to leave a legacy, find meaning.
But true freedom might come from accepting mortality and then choosing our values consciously, not out of fear, but out of, well, what matters in the time we have.
So greatness isn't about huge achievements, necessarily.
Not just that, it's also about how you choose to live, what you choose to care about, facing the difficulties and the fact that it all ends, living authentically in the face of it all.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to think about.
It really is powerful stuff.
So that was a quick tour through some key ideas in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah, hopefully it gives a good sense of the book's main messages.
It really pushes you to think differently about problems, about what you value, and about taking control of your own life and reactions.
Definitely encourages choosing your cares wisely.
We hope this deep dive has been interesting, maybe helpful for your English, and, maybe spark some thoughts for your own life.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you for listening. We wish you good health.